Happy June 5th, all my lovelies. We are finally done Mercury retrograde, and I felt like that one took me down pretty good. It killed my phone, took down a couple other of my electronics, and definitely hit harder than I usually get hit by those. So, luckily, in the coming week, we have a little bit of a break without anything too crazy. And then at the end of this coming week, we have Venus conjunct Uranus, which is a pretty interesting astrological occurrence. Venus is obviously the planet of love and connection, beauty and art, and Uranus is the planet of quick change, rebellion, and electricity. So when we get these two planets together, we can end up falling for people suddenly that we would never even consider. We can feel ourselves being attracted to do things that wouldn't usually come to mind as something that we would be interested in. Just in general, we get kind of taken out of our comfort zone and pulled towards things that aren't really what we would consider our common interests. So that could be interesting coming at the end of the week if that happens to play heavily in your chart. I have spent the last week with family, and I was trying to find a family specific practice for this week, but I feel like the concepts that I want to work with are still gelling. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks I will come up with the shadow practice that I want to use for family, besides the ones that I already use regularly. As an alternative, though, I decided to take it back to the roots and do sort of a old-fashioned, traditional Eastern sort of practice of discovering who you are. For me, this one always seems really effective because on some level it always felt like who I was something permanent and deeper than anything on top of what the world might see or what people around me might interact with. That always seemed pretty true to me, and I know it's not true for everyone. So this practice is just to give you an idea of how to find your true self underneath all the story of self. And hopefully this will start to guide you towards some awareness of who you are. So as usual, we start out with our journal questions. For this one, I really want you to write stream of consciousness, just whatever comes to mind. There's no right or wrong answers. This is actually just the best way to get into the I am practice of discovering self, by writing an answer to these questions to see what the mind creates, and then we'll start to dig underneath that. So the first journal question is, who am I? How would I describe me? If any of these things about me changed or ceased to exist, would I no longer be me? Am I the same person I was when I was born? Or 10 years ago, 1 year ago, or 1 week ago? Does the opinion of others change who I am? And I'll put these questions at the bottom so you can review them and write them in your own pace. For the actual practice of self, we are going to counteract these sentences of how we describe ourselves as a way of creating awareness of the truth of who we are underneath. So to give you an example, if I were to say about myself, I am tall, then in order to start realizing the truth about myself, I need to point out that that is a description of my physical self, but that's not who I am. If I were to say I'm a healthcare worker, that's who I am, I would need to redirect myself by saying that is a job I do, that is not who I am. So for all your descriptions of who you are, I want you to explain to yourself that these are descriptions about aspects of yourself, but they are not who you are. And after each redirect, I want you to meditate on who you are if you are not these things. And one of the simplest ways to do that is simply to say, I am. And just try to experience that fully without adding anything to it. And I know this practice might seem a little bit beyond ourselves, and our mind is going to try to think of ways around it. So every time your mind comes up with a new description of who you are, just return to I am and see if you can feel that truth inside yourself. Just looking for that deeper, continually existing aspect of self that is beneath all the descriptions. And as a nice follow-up to this, I want to do a grounding exercise that's more kinesthetic than we've been doing lately. Usually it works best if we can put our feet in dirt or sand, but water will also do. The idea is we want to be able to put our feet directly on something that we can physically feel with the bottom of our feet. A coarse rug would also probably do, but usually earth has the most grounding impact. So if you want to go to the park, if you have a garden, and as I said, if you want to just stick your feet in the water. And all we're going to do is either stand or sit with our feet in whichever substance we've chosen. Take a few deep breaths and really try to feel the earth or whichever thing we're standing in pressing up into the feet. If you want, you can wiggle your toes a little bit, moving around. Try to notice if there's a temperature difference between your feet and what you're standing in. Try to feel where it presses against the feet, the actual contact it's making with your skin. Try to feel the force of your body pressing into the ground. And on the inhale, pressing down. And on the exhale, releasing any tension and relaxing. Inhale, ground down. Exhale, release. And take a few more breaths, just trying to fully experience your feet and releasing any thoughts that come to distract us. And we'll be back next week with more shadow practices. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us here.